Greetings to all, dear friends. This is another video about electric cars and how the population is trying to deprive mobility, put under control, place so-called 15-minute cities, transfer to public transport, and all this has nothing to do with the environment and its protection, because the ultimate goal is to deprive freedom of movement. And the car, as you understand, is our means of transportation and independence, where you can get on at any time of the day or night if you have gasoline, diesel, or gas in the tank, and you can go anywhere, bring a lot of luggage, and so on. In other words, the car is freedom, and it has become a symbol of freedom over the past more than 110–115 years, since the time when, say, the Ford Project T, which was affordable, began to be mass-produced, and since the United States began to spread around the world, and thus people who previously they had no opportunity to move, they got such an opportunity to move with their belongings, with their families, which happened, for example, during the Great Depression, when people went to California from different states to pick oranges, where this work was. This is all described by the writer Glenn Steinbeck in his book The Grapes of Wrath. At least these poor people who suffered from the Great Depression had their cars. So, let's pay attention to the numerous messages on social networks about fires that spontaneously occur in electric vehicles, whether it's Tesla or some Chinese models. Most of these fires occur from spontaneous ignition of lithium-ion batteries. There is a main lithium-ion battery that drives the motor, and there is an additional 12-volt battery that powers the ignition system. And often, as I have already described in previous videos, both batteries fail at low temperatures. They lose their charge. They do not charge. When you plug the charger plug into your Tesla or other electric car, it does not mean that you have plugged the cord. Plug into the network, as if you want to lure a lamp or charge a mobile phone. This is one computer that is in the charging station, starts communicating with the computer that is in your electric car. There is such communication, so the car is charging. It charges quickly, especially in Tesla, not completely naturally, only up to 80% of the charge. If you want to charge over 80%, then it will take several hours, and naturally in this way your journey is lengthened. And thus in general, any benefit from an electric car is leveled. And of course, there are a lot of other drawbacks, which I have constantly talked about, but here are just statistics, and a description of 2 large fires over the past year that occurred from the ignition of cars, due to the explosion of a lithium-ion battery, which takes hundreds of times more water to extinguish due to a chemical reaction than if it was an ordinary diesel, gas, or petrol car, because there is a chain reaction, a chemical reaction that does not allow you to extinguish the flame faster. Then, there is the possibility that this reaction will resume after the fire is extinguished. Here's a message for you at the end of last year. A powerful explosion in Tashkent at a warehouse near the airport. A fire broke out, a teenager died, there is a wounded man. A powerful explosion occurred on September 28th of the capital of Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, near the local airport. Windows were broken in nearby houses, a large area was covered by fire. 1 person was killed, and another 163 were injured, the Ministry of Health reported. According to the Ministry of Emergency Situations of Uzbekistan, the explosion occurred at warehouses in the Sergeli district of Tashkent. A fire started there. Warehouses, according to the department, belong to the company Interlogistica. Tashkent International Airport, named after Islam Karimev, belongs to the Sergeli district. Fake news is spreading in some social networks that the incident in the Sergeli district occurred as a result of the improvement of the aircraft. This is absolutely not true, the Ministry of Emergency Situations stressed. The Ministry of Internal Affairs of Uzbekistan clarified that the cause of the fire in Tashkent was an explosion in a warehouse where electric vehicles and components for them were stored. A criminal case on violation of fire safety rules has been opened on the fact of an explosion and fire at a warehouse of a logistics company in Tashkent. The explosion occurred around 2:55 local time. Telegram channels will publish footage showing the glow from the fire, followed by a flash. A column of smoke rises above the fire site. An eyewitness reports a large number of victims. A 16-year-old boy was sleeping by the window, and he got into a piece of glass, and so on, other horrors. In other words, this is a huge fire. There are conflicting reports in the Uzbek media whether the airport was closed or not. Some write that the airport continued to operate normally, but I doubt that the airport will operate normally when a fire of such size is raging in a warehouse nearby, which can spread to refueled planes. This is one message for you, where in principle, it is openly stated that electric cars and component parts were stored there. That is, there were certainly ion batteries there. And here's the second message for you, where the media is obviously hiding the real reason. This is a fire at London Luton Airport, in the parking lot of diesel engine drivers. This is starting right from the first lines with a lie. Just a minute, I'm just going to try to cover it with my own words now, so as not to consider this a lie. In other words, in November at London Luton Airport. It is quite far from the city. I have been there many times. There is a large multi-story parking lot. I think there are 4 or 5 floors. And they showed that at night there was an incident of ignition of one of the cars, which, how many cars do you think he burned? Not 1, not 2, not 100. 1,500 cars. Moreover, the media basically indicate that this car was diesel, without indicating that in fact, it was not a diesel car. It was a hybrid Land Rover, where this large lithium-ion battery was present, which caused a fire and a chain reaction went from it through all the real cars nearby, and as you can see a huge fire. 1,500 cars destroyed. It's not hidden here. The footage is impressive. The airport was closed. In other words, look at these frames. If you find them, I published them on my portal in Boost. This is very impressive. Almost all the media, depending on the level of their sophistication and honesty, sometimes indicate that yes, maybe it was a hybrid car, but most of them indicate that it was a diesel. That is, they are trying to hide with all their lines the fact that it was a car, if not a clean electric car. Then drain the battery, which is a hybrid. So they are trying to protect car sales in this way, because as you have already heard in the European Union, now the UK has already left the European Union, but their policy on electric vehicles is even more advanced in quotation marks than in the European Union. 2035th year, you can only register electric cars. As for hybrid cars, and how ordinary cars that were already purchased in advance in the 2034th year will arrive, it has not yet been specified, but there are many cars that already do not receive certificates in the EU countries, which are usually received after inspection. That is, they write that the car does not meet the standards of emission of CO2 into the environment Wednesday and so on. And you are given only a few months until the next technical inspection to travel on this car. That is, in this way you are being driven to pushed to buy an electric car, because you are being sent a signal that in 11 years, you will most likely not be able to drive your car anymore. Therefore, it is more profitable for you to buy an electric car now, which of course will not last until 2035th year, because the batteries fail very quickly. No one wants to buy used electric cars because it is unknown in what condition the battery is. Insurers increase insurance due to the fact that there is such a risman. If you read the insurance industry press, you will see that insurance for electric cars is more expensive than for conventional cars. And all this is what you hear about the benefits and environmental friendliness of an electric car, naturally hides the fact that millions of cubic meters of water are consumed in the manufacture of lithium from new batteries. First of all, I have already talked about this in separate videos, and there is material that I published on Boost. The development of lithium deposits like these leaves behind a desert and polluted soil. They don't talk about it. It's as if you get a completely clean product in the form of a lithium battery in your electric car. And this is where your emissions-free trips to cities and towns begin from scratch, despite the fact that in order to manufacture this battery and completely this car, it was necessary to pollute the environment more than your car on an internal combustion engine will pollute. It has been used for many years of its operation. And here is one example for you. When people are lured first by free parking, free charging, or very cheap charging, and then these subsidies are removed. Here you are again. Messages from London. Electric car owners will see parking fees rise by 1,800% under Labour Council, Laboist councils that govern different areas of London. There is no standardized parking policy and taxes for cars, but there are different areas where different rules apply. But in general, the rules are more or less correlated with each other. There are only different prices that may differ from each other. Electric car owners in central London will pay extra parking fees from April under new rights introduced by a Labour-run council. The Westminster City Council has put forward new proposals that could change parking fees to encourage drivers to use vehicles that produce less emissions. Despite this, the new fees can increase the cost of parking for owners of electric vehicles by as much as 1,800% over a 4-hour period. Vehicles will be charged based on their historical carbon footprint during their production, as well as how much space they take up, as well as the wear and tear they cause on the roads. By the way, electric cars cause more wear, because they are heavier because of the battery. Tires wear out faster there, respectively. You need to change tires after their rapid wear, it will pollute the environment in this way. To recycle an electric car, you need more money, and naturally it will cause more damage to the environment than a conventional internal combustion car. We never talk about this. According to the current rules, an electric car or hybrid must pay only for the first 10 minutes to get the maximum time spent in a parking space, which is usually 4 hours. According to the Telegraph, electric car drivers can pay as little as 96 pence for a 4-hour stay in the most expensive parking area. According to the new proposals from the 1st of April, which are expected to be introduced in April, parking in the same area can already cost 18 points and £18 erased. But this is for 4 hours, and now multiply this by 2 hours, that is, you arrived at your 8-hour workday, at least paying for 8 hours, because some work for more than 8 hours or at least are late for parking for another 20, 30 minutes, 15 minutes respectively, will have to pay for another 4 hours or even there for an hour. That's at least £36. That's a huge sum, £36 a day, multiplied by, say, 22 working days. That is, it's £700 or £800, and it depends on the zone. Right now I'm talking about Westminster, but there are other zones where the price is also quite low now, and people have bought electric cars because they bought into such savings on parking and gasoline. And now it turns out that refueling and charging costs much more because of electricity prices. And now parking will be for you cost a lot of money. And further, what writes that a member of the Pimlico County Council Nord said, the council is proposing a massive tax increase for the electric car driver as they increase the parking fee for electric cars by 1,800%. Merchants and small businesses that have done the right thing by switching to electric vehicles and have now seen costs rise to £36 a day will be particularly hard hit. It's bad for business, it's bad for climate change, and it's bad for residents. Similarly, Nikki, a Conservative MP, said the beggar's belief that a council run either by lawyers wants to increase parking fees for cleaner vehicles is ephemeral. And so on and so on. In other words, they write that here on average, they now pay subsidies of £20 a day for parking different enterprises to those employees who buy electric cars. From April of the 25th year, the new parking fees will also apply to electric vehicles and hybrids. Cars with a battery capacity of less than 69 kilowatt-hours will be charged at a rate of £40. That is, a fee of £40 per year will be charged, and all vehicles with batteries with a capacity of 70 kilowatts per hour will pay twice as much. And so, what is the goal? The goal, of course, is not environmental protection, but the goal is to lure people to buy electric cars, make a lot of money on it, and despite the fact that most likely this system will lead to the collapse of the power system, when there will be a lot of electric cars. I have already told you that the Finnish government commissioned a study, as a result of which it was indicated for 1,000 pages, that, even with the current number of electric vehicles, there are not enough. First of all, there are not enough non-ferrous metals to replace and repair existing lithium-ion batteries. I'm not talking about the fact that naturally the number of electric vehicles will increase every year, despite the failure of this system. So in the future there will be a big shortage for repairs and so on. And just replacing this battery costs an average of $25,000 or euros. On Tesla, it can be even more expensive. I printed and posted a video from Canada, where you need to pay $45,000 for replacement with the slightest damage to the battery case. That is, it is 61,000 Canadian dollars, along with installation and so on. In other words, this is a cosmic sum that sometimes covers insurance. People go to the insurance companies to apply because their battery is damaged, for example, because they ran over some stone. Slight damage to the battery case, and all the insurance companies are trying to force you to replace this battery right away. And then of course your insurance goes up the price, because that you already had a very expensive insurance case and so on. Therefore, many people are trying to do it at their own expense. It is simply impossible to pay 61,000 Canadian dollars at their own expense. Thus, in general, any savings on gasoline or diesel are simply reset by this, and most likely, with the complete failure of this electric car company, in the future, say 10 years, people will no longer be able to return to conventional cars because these conventional cars will first of all be completely discontinued and discontinued. They will not be allowed to sit down, change seats and buy such cars, because in Europe it will be impossible from 2035 year already according to the laws adopted. And so these people will be faced with a choice Either you pay until you are blue in the face for repairs and purchases of electric cars, or you just ride public transport. In general, it's better to sit inside your 15-minute cities and ride a bike. You won't get far anyway. Therefore, most likely, pushing people around the world and electric cars down the throat has never had environmental protection as a goal. It's just a cover. I assume that there are useful idiots who believed in it sometime, maybe even some experts, but I think that those who planned this action have calculated everything well. They will understand that people simply will not be able to pay for the purchase and repair of these cars, and on the basis of the laws, the same laws of the European Union, and in other countries from 2035 year, it will be impossible to purchase and register a car with an internal combustion engine. Accordingly, you will simply be faced with a choice. Either you go broke with your electric car, or you just transfer to public transport. Thus, you will simply be locked up for physical and financial reasons in 15-minute cities. That's the plan. I think this is the most likely thing that will happen, because all this could have been calculated from the very beginning, and it is about these various incidents with an electric car that you will never be told, and will not tell the truth about what is happening, and how much you will have to pay for repairs, for battery replacement and so on. People find themselves in front of a huge surprise as soon as they hit some bump and damage, for example, the outer shell of the battery. Then he will present a huge bill, because the repairmen also do not want to repair these batteries. It's dangerous. You leave this battery in your garage, and it will burn down the entire garage, your entire car repair company, along with customers' cars. Therefore, all they do is simply replace these batteries, and insurers are willing to pay for the replacement of electric batteries for now. If they are under warranty, they are covered by insurance, because no one wants to get involved with an insured event when this car ignites itself, say in a parking lot, as happened in Luton, in London. So these are the aspects that should always be carefully considered, but you will never be told when buying. That's it, dear friends. Please subscribe to this channel, please like it after the 30th second. And remember, this applies not only to electric car owners, it applies to all of us. Because whether you are a motorist or a person who walks or bicycles, understand that all goods are transported by truck, usually on roads, and transportation prices will depend on the number of cars. In other words, the prices that you will pay in supermarkets and just in some shops, if they still remain by that time, they will depend on whether you have personal transport and on the ability to move goods with conventional diesel trucks. Otherwise, prices will rise. That's it. Be sure to subscribe to Boost, because subscribing to Boost will help me continue my research. And do not forget that the occult games of the Elite and the New World Order and Putin's Matrix can be ordered via email, indicated under each video with my autograph or without an autograph by direct links to the Conceptual Publishing House, here at the bottom in the description of each video. Thank you all for the support of the channel.